I know it's early and the kids aren't even signed yet, but I am a big Chad Gasper fan.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Tuesday. I am Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find College Football 25 game content with my other channel, Whole Nine Sports, WHOLENINE Sports on YouTube. There will be a Florida Gators Dynasty. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. And like I said, I'm a big Chad Gasper fan. I went through, and I feel like a lot of Florida Gators fans are down on recruiting, which I understand. You're totally justified if you have issues with recruiting. The kids that are in the class right now are quality players. And I wanted to just give them a little bit of that good vibe energy there. Not that I'm trying to be a sunshine pumper, but the kids that are committed right now are damn good football players. Okay. And Chad Gasper is one that I'm planting the flag right now. I am a big Chad Gasper fan. Okay. Last year, the running back that I was a huge fan of was KD Daniels. This year, it's Chad Gasper. He's the guy that I love what he's been putting on film. Okay. And I will say that I understand right now he's, I don't even know what he is across the board as far as ranking wise go. I know he's the lower ranked running back. He is a 3-star everywhere except for rivals. He's a 4-star, but I'm just a huge fan of what he does. I think that he's going to be a big riser. And I know that a lot of people say that about a lot of players. I've said when I don't think guys will rise, when I'm like, yeah, no, I think that they're probably going to wind up where they are. I think Chad Gasper is going to be a riser, especially when you look at he should see significantly more volume this year as a senior. He played in a very air it out kind of offense. By the way, when you throw the ball a lot, that doesn't make you an air raid. That's not what it is. Air raid is a system. But he played in a very air it out kind of offense. They spread the ball out. They threw it a lot because they had, I think it was 3 Division I or 3 FBS wide receivers and another Division I at the FCS level. They had a lot of really talented receivers when he was a junior. Now, I don't know what they have now, but I do know that they have a senior, Chad Gasper, and I think that just what he can do is insane. I think he could pop off, truly. I think that his dual threat ability is just awesome to see, and I think that for Florida Gators fans, I keep saying for Florida Gators fans, we've seen Montrell Johnson be the leading receiver in the backfield while also saying, hey, not too high on Montrell Johnson as a pass catcher because, he had the second most drops, I think it was, or the most drops with obviously not being top 2 in targets this year. But I do think that part of the reason that he was out there, is more so because Trevor Etienne wasn't out there, and Trevor Etienne wasn't out there because of his pass blocking. And I know that there's a lot of people who go, that's a cop-out to say his pass blocking. I'm not saying he left because his pass blocking. I'm not saying he wasn't good because his pass blocking was bad. What I am saying is that he wasn't on the field on a lot of passing downs because his pass blocking wasn't good. That's why he wasn't out there. So Montrell wasn't out there because he's just such a dynamic receiving threat. He was out there because he was the better pass protector of the two. But you look at who Florida's added in this 2024 running back class and the 2020 and even 2023 you can go back to. And you look at who they've added, and they've added guys that are proven rushers and receivers. That's what they've done with every running back so far. Trayon Webb, if he's a good pass blocker, he will be on the field in passing situations this year. A lot. Same goes for Jaden Baugh and KD Daniels in the 2024 class. Traylon Webb is someone that in high school, we were watching him just straight up catch passes in the flats and run. Like he was doing that. Jaden Ball and Katie Daniels, both lined up at wide receiver and just caught passes at wide receiver. It's really as simple as if you can pass block, you'll be out there. So for Chad Gasper, I think that he does pose the skill set to be a legitimate dual threat from day one. And I will say, like I've said before, I'm not one where I go, oh yeah, I'm banking on a freshman contributing from day one, because I think that that's just bad practice in general. However, I don't think it's bad for a freshman running back to contribute from day one. I think it's bad to expect them to do that. So that's where I stand on Chad Gasper. I'm a huge fan of his ability. If you have an opportunity to watch his film, go watch his film. I've also said that the comfort running out of pistol is big for me. And I know that a lot of people kind of disagree with things. But I'm finding it now. I have definitive difference of opinion there. And by that, I mean, I went to an expert. I went to an NFL running back and I asked him, hey, I was like, hey, I was just curious if you'd be able to answer something for me. As a back, are there significant differences to timing and reading lanes when you're running out of shotgun to pistol? And it was huge, in all caps, huge difference. There's, I'm going to cover the name, but there's a very long message there. There's a very long message there. I didn't cover the name well enough, but go ahead. You can see the first name and you won't know who it is. It's a common first name. That's what I did. And it's that the timing is very different because everything's happening faster when you're running out of pistol as opposed to gun. And you're also getting the ball deeper instead of closer to the line of scrimmage. So it feels strange and it's tougher to make the read as quick. So yeah, I think that the Gators going and getting a kid that already plays out of a pistol offense like Chad Gasper did in high school or does in high school, I think making that adjustment and adding him where he's already comfortable running out, I think that's a huge advantage for Florida. Again, I'm not saying Heisman or anything like that, but I think it's a big advantage to have a kid who's comfortable out there running out of pistol where it's more difficult for a running back as opposed to shotgun. So I think that that's something that does go overlooked. We have more. I actually just realized every player I put on here is an offensive player. So it's fun. It's fun. We will get to the next one. With passion, drive, and patience, that's the formula for winning championships, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance with superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your parts guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply, and eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day, every day. We are available daily and free reviews in the podcast and on YouTube. And I am going to talk about a certain wide receiver here. And by that, I mean the only wide receiver that is currently committed to the Florida Gators for the 2025 class. It is wide receiver Joshua Moore, who, if you look at any of the recruiting services, he is one of the highest rated Florida Gators commits for the 2025 class, except for on 24/7. On 24/7, he is a 3-star. They are not very high on him, but he's a 4-star on 3. On 3, he is this is the just their rankings, not the consensus, the industry. On 3, he's the 57th overall player in the country, 9th receiver, 7th player in the state of Florida. ESPN, 257th player in the country, 31st receiver, 33rd in the state of Florida. On Rivals, 167th player in the country, 31st receiver, 36th in the state of Florida. 24/7, he's unranked nationally. He is the 48th receiver and the 49th player in the state of Florida. According to the On3 industry, he's 177th in the country, 18th receiver, 27th player in the state of Florida overall. On3 is obviously way higher on him than anybody else. I side with On 3 in this one, okay? I think that I generally temper expectations for receivers early on. It's not that I think receivers shouldn't play early on. Hell, I think receiver and running back are probably the spots where I go, if you're going to play as a freshman, I'm cool with it. Completely cool with it. Just, I think that they're the easier spots to pick up, like a running back. You have to pick up your calls and everything, but grab ball, run with ball. Like that, like at the very, just minimum contributions there. Stuff like that. When we talk about receivers, I do think that a lot of it is, you need to know where you're going to line up, when you're going to line up, whatever it may be. I think Joshua Moore can play meaningful snaps early because there's so many receivers that play. Like you could play out there. You could be the 5th most played receiver and you're still playing meaningful snaps, right? So all that being said, I really like the film for Joshua Moore. I don't know if he's a day one contributor, but by the time he finishes his freshman season, I kind of expect him to be playing meaningful snaps. 6'4", 205 pounds. That's size you can't teach and size you don't have in the locker room right now if you're the Florida Gators. There's not a lot of big receivers. We talk about it every recruiting class. We go, yeah, Florida's bringing in a bunch of 5'11" receivers, whatever it may be. But as far as receivers 6'3" or taller, Jaquavian Frazier's is 6'3.5". He's a senior. He won't be here. Okay? Then you have to scroll all the way down to Khalil Jackson, 6'3", redshirt junior. He will be here at most 1 more year. Okay? Then you go to Marcus Burke, 6'3 3/4", redshirt junior. He will be here for 1 year at most. That's it for receivers 6'3" or taller. There are not a lot of big bodies in this receiver room right now. Because Florida, early on in Billy Napier's tenure, has gone, hey, speed. And those speedy guys, the shifty guys tend to be shorter. That's just a fact. That's not even an opinion. But Joshua Moore has the size you can't teach. And at 205 pounds, he's already, like he might have to maybe trim a little fat, bulk up a little bit, but 205 pounds, he's what? The 3rd heaviest receiver on the team? He's the 3rd heaviest receiver on the team. 4th. There's Jaquavian Frazier's is 218, Khalil Jackson's 215, and Taylor Spirito is 206, 1 pound heavier than him. Like, that's size that you don't have here. And I do think that Joshua Moore has a lot of work to do as a route runner. I think every high school kid has a lot of work to do as a route runner. And if you don't have a lot of work to do as a route runner, you're probably a very high-ranked 5-star receiver. Because being able to run routes with tempo, with technique in high school is rare. Okay? So Joshua Moore, I think, needs work on that. However, I also recognize he's 6'4". I don't know how good of a route runner he's ever going to be. However, I do know this when you watch Joshua Moore's film. And if you haven't watched every guy that I talk about today, watch their film. Okay? Just go to Google Joshua Moore, Huddle, Joshua Moore 24/7 on 3, and it's usually on the profile there. So look at those things. But you watch Joshua Moore's film and you know what you're going to see? You're going to see a receiver that is 6'4", 205 pounds, and you are going to see a quarterback that has just absolute, undying, blind trust in his receiver. He gets in a pinch, he throws it up to Joshua Moore. So Joshua Moore is that kind of contested catch receiver, that contested catch winner, we can call him, like Khalil Jackson, where we go, yeah, you could throw it up. You could throw up a 50-50 ball, but really there's no such thing as 50-50 with this guy. It's 70-30, 80-20, whatever it may be, right? That's the kind of receiver Joshua Moore is. However, I think that he has enough speed to create explosive plays. As in, if if he gets behind a guy, I think that he could outrun them for at least big, like massive gains. I don't think he's as slow as Justin Shorter, for example. But I think that Joshua Moore is big and fast. And if he gets behind someone, it's tough to catch him, especially if he gets behind them in just a little bit of distance. Like, it's tough to catch him. I don't think he has enough speed to win purely with speed. That's the big difference. Like DK Metcalf, giant, brolic receiver, has enough to just win, has enough speed to win purely with speed. I don't think Joshua Moore has that level of speed, but I do think that he's got enough speed to create explosive plays, pick up big chunk yardage, and also get downfield so that you can throw a deep ball to him. That's the kind of receiver that you need for a DJ Lagway type. Like that's the thing that I tried talking about a lot when Anthony Richardson was the starting quarterback for the Florida Gators. When I was like, yeah, you need those big receivers that can go up and get it, not just because of his inaccuracy, which I don't think DJ Lagway will suffer from the same way Anthony Richardson did. Not just because of inaccuracy, but because having that big arm and those big receivers, like QBs with big arms, they like to throw the ball downfield. That's why they have big arms. That's how you know they have big arms. Like Graham needs a shorter receiver that he can just dunk the ball off to and let them pick up yards after the catch. He can throw it a little bit downfield. He has to step into it. But AR, DJ, they could just sling it. And that's the thing with Joshua Moore. He allows you to do that. Joshua Moore allows you to just throw the ball up deep and let him go win that. And having a guy like DJ Lagway where he can extend plays with his legs and then throw it deep downfield, that helps you. I think Joshua Moore can be, as a freshman, just a big play threat. That's it. I don't need him to pick up 40 catches. No, you give me 15 catches, 200-something yards. I'm happy with it. Like, honestly, give me 15 catches, 270 yards, a few touchdowns. I'm happy with it as a freshman for Joshua Moore. And he's not the only go up and get it kind of receiver that Florida has in the 2025 class. To wrap up today's episode of Locked On Gators, we are talking about one of my favorite positions on offense. And I said before the break, I said, a go up and get it receiver. Because that's what he is right now. It's Tae'Shaun Gelsey, who will be playing tight end. But right now, you cut on the high school film, and all you'll see, really, is jump balls. That's it. You cut it on, and you see the quarterback scramble, and literally it's a punt. He just throws it into the air, straight up. Who's there to get it? Tae'Shaun Gelsey. Like, that's what he's there for. That's his job. He's playing receiver right now. He is. Like straight up receiver, similar to Amir Jackson last year, where we're like, yeah, you're going to be a tight end in college. If you make it to the NFL, you're probably going to be a tight end there. But in high school, you're a receiver. That's fine. Tae'Shaun Gelsey has dominated doing that. Okay. And the more I watch of Tae'Shaun Gelsey, the more I like. And Gelsey was someone who, when he committed, I said, watching his film, I think he's one of the kids that's going to rise. I don't think that about everybody. Like Waltez Clark, I think he's good where he's at. Jalen Wiggins, I think that rivals can be higher on him because they're really low on him, but they also update their rankings so infrequently. But there's quite a few kids like Jeremiah McLeod. I don't think he's going to rise up too much. I think he's a high 3, low 4-star. I think that's the kind of player he is, and I think that's fine. Like, I don't think every kid can be amazing or anything like that, but Micah Jones, I don't think rises. Tae'Shaun Gelsey has already risen up boards. Tae'Shaun Gelsey going into his commitment was a 3-star, if I'm not mistaken, everywhere except for rivals, and now he's a 4-star on 3. He was a 4-star on rivals. I realized that the way I worded that made it sound like he was worse than that. He was a 3-star everywhere except rivals. Rivals had him as a 4-star. Now he is a 4-star on 3 and rivals. He's the 263rd player in the country on 3, 393rd in the country by their composite, 19th tight end in the country on 3, 32nd player in the state of Florida on 3. Like, he's someone that's going to rise when you look at his type. And again, I'm not saying that he is going to be this player. I want to say that before I say the player, even though I've said it multiple times before. Tae'Shaun Gelsey is not going to be this player, but stylistically, he's the closest thing you've had to Kyle Pitts since Kyle Pitts. stylistically. I'm not saying talent-wise. Stylistically, that's what it is. And I will say that the move to tight end for Tae'Shaun Gelsey, I don't think will be a very easy one. This is 6'4", 220. Florida Gators tight ends need to be a bit bigger than that. At 6'4", 220, he'd be the lightest tight end by 20 pounds, almost 25 pounds. You got to bulk up to play tight end, even if you're big, which he's also not, exceptionally big there. He's 6'4". That put him as one of the shortest tight ends on the team. Like 6'4" is Scott Isaacs. And then there's Arliss and Keon Zipper are shorter than him, but he's shorter than everyone else there. So I think that, he doesn't have that insane size that you go, yeah, like you're ready. 6'4", 220, you've got to add weight. Like you have to add size to play tight end. So I don't think that the move to tight end for Tae'Shaun Gelsey will necessarily be a very easy one. But like I said, when he committed, I think that he brings a level of positional versatility to the offense that Arliss Boardingham doesn't. And that's not a knock on Arliss at all. It's not, because I think Arliss is pretty good for what he does. But what I meant by that is that Arliss isn't a true wide receiver / tight end. That's all I meant. Arliss isn't a true wide receiver / tight end. He's a power slot / tight end. I know that when Arliss came over from California, a bunch of Florida Gators fans were like, oh, he's going to be the next Kyle Pitts. He's not that kind of player. Arliss isn't. First off, he's a hell of a lot more built than Kyle Pitts was when he was in Gainesville. But also, Arliss is more of that Travis Kelce type. The more stout, put him in the slot, let him be a big slot receiver, put him in motion as a blocker. Like, you can do a lot with him. I think that they're stylistically different. Arliss is more suited to play in line than Tae'Shaun Gelsey is. It's not a knock on either one of them. It's just what their skill sets call for, what their skill sets, what skill sets they bring to the table. So I do think that Tae'Shaun Gelsey, if he hits his ceiling, can be a way different player than Arliss, even though Arliss is still good at what he does. I mean, that's what Florida shifted toward too. You look at Amir Jackson, it's the same thing. He's more of a true wide receiver / tight end, not the power slot / tight end. Things like that, that's just how it is. It's just stylistically what they are. It's stylistically what Florida's looked for this class and last. And I will say that I think Tae'Shaun Gelsey is going to be a project player, not going to contribute much at all. But I also don't think that you're going to have the expectation on him to contribute early. I don't think you should, not only just because he's moving from wide receiver to tight end, but you look at the tight end room, you've got Arliss and Hayden Hansen right now are redshirt sophomores. I would be shocked, assuming the coaching staff stays in place and all that, I'd be shocked if Arliss, Hayden, Scott Isaacs, Tony Livingston, and Gavin Hill weren't all back. You've got 6 tight ends on the roster. The only one that would be leaving at that point is Keon Zipper. Everyone else should be back. And Amir Jackson is joining for the fall. He's a mid-year enrollee. So Amir Jackson will be here as well. That's a lot of youth, which means you look at them all coming back for 2025. Tae'Shaun Gelsey should not be playing over any of those guys. Just shouldn't. So you got the 2025 class, and then 2026, we could talk about Tae'Shaun Gelsey contributing. When you're probably out at least Arliss or Hayden, you're probably going to be gone with one of them. Someone that's been a backup for multiple years will probably be gone. Things like that. But right now, I think that for 2025, you should not have any expectations for any tight end in the 2025 class, or even Amir Jackson in 2024 to do a significant job contributing there. Also, 2025, you have Caleb Rillos, the tight end from Air Force, joining the team as well. So, yeah, a lot there. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day, we are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. We'll be back tomorrow, talk more Florida Gators football. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Giants Country and NFL 33, and I'll see you all next time.